Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host, Brett
Gilliland.
Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland. Today, I've got Jim Huntzicker with me. Jim, how you doing, man?
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Great to be here.
Yeah, another Illinois boy.
Yeah, we're about 4 hours apart, but we're both in Illinois.
You're just right up the road over here. So
for sure.
I've got some good times. I told you you're from Arlington Heights. My fraternity brothers listening to this, especially in my pledge class, most of us could still sing the Rolling Meadows Mustangs fight song because we had to stand on the side of the road and get snowballs thrown at us. Hopefully we're past the where we can get in trouble for hazing. They threw snowballs at us until all 25 of us could sing the song in sync, and it took us a few hours to do that. And so still have it engraved in my head today.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, man, you are Jim Huntzicker. You are a business leader. You are an author. You are just helping serve a lot of people, man. And it's great. I look forward to our conversation. But like I do on every show, if you can start with what helped make you the man you are today.
Just perseverance, right? That's just not giving up, like getting up when I was knocked down, that is what brought me here. That's what we're going to have this conversation about. I had a habit for walking away from successful businesses that were like profitable. And what I didn't realize at the time, took some reflection to figure this out, is that I kept walking away from businesses because of some beliefs I had from growing up, from what I heard parents fighting about. It was always about money. And so I've been married 20 years. I got 2 kids. And every time I got to a certain, it was about 500,000, 800,000 in revenue. My 7-year-old brain, who was still calling the shots, because that's when I made this decision, said, "Hey, you better walk away from that business before you start fighting with your wife and breaking up your family," because that's what happened to mine. And so, what's crazy is so many people, like usually issues we have in our lives, especially between the ages of 35 and 55, like the biggest issues you have are usually decisions you made before you were 8 years old. It's the craziest thing. And so you decided to believe that, though. That's the important part, is you made a decision to believe it, and you can make a decision to believe something new now that you know something different is true.
Yeah. Well, you talk about that in your book, right? The 8-year-old brain. Yeah,
it's crazy. It's like the 7-year-old CEOs running the show. It's wild.
Yeah, it comes with you. We had a consultant psychologist for with a leadership team I was working with once, and the guy talked about your upbringing gives you gifts and wounds, right? And you got to learn from them, right? And try to fix those things that maybe not working as well. So one of the things I want to talk about. So your book right here, I can show this on the screen. Mindset Breakthrough right here, great stuff. Give it a check it out. But what I couldn't believe, man, I about fell over on page 33, is you talk about the 5 primary drivers of human behavior: beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions, and results.
Yeah,
I don't know if you did any, it's the loop. And I don't know if you did any of the research on the Circuit of Success, but in 2003, I had a really, really bad year as a second-year financial advisor after a really good first year. And I said, okay, these are the success habits that I can create. What are those things? And mine were attitude, your belief system, your actions ultimately get you the results that you want. So when I was reading this and turned to page 33, I was like, holy smoke. So let's walk through those, man. The beliefs, you put them number 1 is beliefs. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so the beliefs are what you decided to believe, right? And usually they were installed. And what that means is most of the beliefs, especially the ones that are causing issues in your life, are beliefs you decided from the people who influenced you most before you were 8 years old. So you decided to believe, and it wasn't like, it doesn't have to be like a direct, a parent or whoever raised you, whoever influenced you most growing up. It didn't have to be like a lesson they taught you. You could have overheard a fight. You could have it could have been your sibling was getting praise for the good grades they got, and your parents didn't say anything to you because you didn't get good grades, and now suddenly you decide you're stupid, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not smart. I'm not good at reading. I'm not good at math. And you carry that with you into adulthood, and then your adult brain works at proving that to be right. And so it all starts with the decision to believe something, because you have to decide to believe it, right? That's all it is. And what most people realize, and I didn't even realize this till I went on a soul searching journey that ended up being 2 years, but that the beliefs are just decisions, and you could decide to believe a new thing that you now know to be true if it's different from what you had installed when you were growing up. And there's no fault or no judgment against parents. It has nothing to do with any of that. Because the parents, everybody's doing the best they can with the cards they were dealt. your parents, inherited stuff from their parents, inherited stuff from their parents. And this is not like, there's no fault or judgment here. Just being an awareness that you could change a belief that you have. It's that just because it was installed from your parents because of what they believed, and they never did this kind of work, right? So they were doing the best they could. And maybe they didn't even know you heard these fights or you heard these conversations. And, and this goes so deep that you could be 6 months old, you could be 1 year old. And we now know from NLP and modern hypnosis that all of that stuff can be brought back up. You can remember stuff from when you're 1, right? Like you can't consciously remember it right now, but in deep hypnosis, like real hypnosis, that stuff can be brought to the surface. It's wild. And so all that stuff, while you might not consciously remember it, it's like in your hard drive, in your subconscious, all of it. And so that's what what is running the show. And what's the craziest thing, that like the biggest problems in your life are, so you have limiting beliefs, right? Like there's 4 layers of this. Limiting beliefs are pretty easy to change. We can go through it. The decision director, you can draw 2 lines on a piece of paper. We'll talk about that in a minute. But to get that, to change those beliefs, because you got to install it into your subconscious. But then you have resentments, right? The next layer is resentments, and it's like, oh, okay. Have you dealt with resentments? Because we all have them, and they're usually against your parents or whoever raised you. And a lot of times, especially with achievers, they're against yourself too. Right? You're holding resentments against yourself for not doing more earlier, or for not doing something you thought you should. And so you have these resentments, and then you have this core limiting belief. So you got your surface level stuff, easy to remove. And then you have a core limiting belief. And this is generally, if your parents raised you or whoever did, let's just say it was your parents, it's usually a core, like a marriage of your mom and your dad's limiting belief that's anchored by resentment. And so you can't get rid of it till you let go of the resentment. And so that's a whole, like the achievers I work with, the men are like, because you got to like go through this process, and it's tough, right? Like, because especially if you're close with your parents today, and you're like, well, I love my parents. Like I'm friends with my dad's my best friend. My mom's my best. That's not what it's about. It has nothing to do with, but it has to do with these resentments from when you grew up that you're still harboring. And so in the last one is, so then you got resentments, but the fourth one is not being enough. Everybody has this, right? And so that's how people like build these successful businesses, and they fold, right? They go bankrupt. Like, we hear stories all the time. Somebody's worth 20, 30, 300 million usually sports, right. In retirement, they go bankrupt. They lose it all. Why is that? Well, first of all, they never got financial literacy, right? Yeah. And second of all, they were never comfortable with the money in the first place. So as soon as it wasn't being given to them in gross amounts over and over again, it's gone, because they go back to what they're comfortable with, even if what they're comfortable with is something they don't like. Because we all get addicted to negative emotions. It's the craziest thing. Yeah. Because it's where it's comfortable, it's familiar, even if it's what we don't want, right? Because the thing we say we do want is change. It's different, and we don't know what that looks like. So we stay comfortable, and it's in this place we don't like, in these emotions, I call them powerful and primal states, right? Powerful is when you feel good, confident, resourceful. And primal is when you feel, stress, anxiety, fear. Yeah. And the name of the game is switching from primal, because I go to primal every day, but I don't live there. I live there for 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Like I still feel it, but then I change back because we're only as good as the stories we tell ourselves, right? And so why would we give anything meaning? Like Brett, we all do this, right? Why would we give any situation, even a terrible situation, death, whatever, like terrible things happen to people? We all have stories that really sucked in our lives, but giving that a meaning that doesn't serve us, why would we do that? Right? Like no matter what it is, find the good. If you're looking for good, you could find it in anything. And if you're looking for the bad, you'll find that too. But why do we always look for the bad? Why wouldn't we look for the good and try to have it be a positive thing in our lives, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So do you think that you were born that way?
Born in what way?
So I'm just, from what I know about your background, is I don't know if did you believe that growing up? Did you believe when you were, 15 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, that I can just change my thoughts that easily from, instead of it being primal, be positive, or instead of thinking negative, think positive? Right. And so that's where I wanted to go with that is, so I felt like I kind of did grow up with that. Like, I'm an only child. My parents, if I was bored, they would say, here, sit down, draw your dream house, and think about, you living in that house one day. And again, I've said this numerous times in the podcast. I don't know if they really knew that they were doing that, or if that was part of the plan.
That's incredible, man. That is incredible.
It is. And I look back at that, and I remember like it was yesterday, man, those conversations and doing that. So I feel like I always had that, but I know people that don't have that, right? So how did you get yourself from a guy that didn't grow up thinking I can do anything to now I know I can do anything?
I took I look back after burning the 7. Well, I burned 6 businesses that were profitable. Like, I didn't burn them. I walked away from them. I didn't sell the list. I didn't sell the business. I just walked away. And so on the 7th one, then it was like God came and took the money away too. And he's like, hey, pay attention, because you didn't pay attention on the first 6. And so at that point, I went on what ended up being, I didn't plan on it being 2 years, but I went on a soul searching to figure out, like, why do I keep doing this? Like, I've been to lots of Tony Robbins events. I love Tony. He's done great stuff in my life, but I could never get to my limiting beliefs. Like, he has a limiting belief part of his show, of his shows. And so, but for me, I'm not a detail guy, like a lot of guys aren't. And so he was like, write down your limiting beliefs. I'm like, I don't know what they are. I know they exist. I don't know what they are. Right? How do I get to them? And so finally I went and studied everybody in history, right? Like, I went all the way back to where I found the best stuff was from like the late 1800s and early 1900s, like Charles Hannell, Wallace Wattles. Charles Hannell wrote the Master Key System. It's some of the best stuff I've ever read in my life. It's absolutely incredible. And he was actually Napoleon Hill. He was Napoleon.
Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah. But so about Think and Grow Rich, let's touch on that really quick. Have you ever heard of Outwitting the Devil?
No.
So in 1937 is when Napoleon Hill published Think and Grow Rich. In 1936, and 1 year later, he wrote Outwitting the Devil. But his wife wouldn't let him publish it because it had very controversial takes on church, state, and school. And what's crazy is they are all very sound even today, but this was in the late 30s. And so the Napoleon Hill Foundation didn't publish it until 2011. That's why most people have never even heard of it. It's one of the best books I've ever read, because if you go through Think and Grow Rich, you could think like, oh, well, he met Andrew Carnegie and he had all this opportunity and Andrew Carnegie introduced him. You could get a chip on your shoulder really quickly, right? Especially if you have the wrong mindset reading that book, instead of just reading it for the 13 principles that are in it that are absolutely incredible. But if you then read, so I highly recommend reading Think and Grow Rich at least 4 times, because the first 2 times you're just kind of getting it. Third time you'd be like, oh, and the 4th time you'll start applying it. But after the 2nd time you read it, you should stop and read. It's actually listen to it on Audible, because they have like the devil, this devil voice on there, and it's like it's basically a conversation with Napoleon Hill and the devil, and it's a conversation we all have in our heads all the time. It's absolutely incredible, and it's one of the top 3 books I've ever read. That is because it changed the way I thought about Think and Grow Rich, which I already loved, but it changed the way I viewed that book in a very great way. So, that started with going back to studying people from the early 1900s, and that, like, James Allen from, that's As a Man Thinketh. And so all of, like, what I realized is all the best stuff for personal development, which wasn't even a thing then, it wasn't called personal development, is from the early 1900s. That's like basically everybody today. I'm not knocking anybody, but Earl Nightingale from like 1950, he did some really great stuff. He was one of the last true thought leaders that had unique stuff. Everybody else has kind of been regurgitating different versions of that and trying to convolute it and make it their own, which I get. Like, I'm not against any of it. Everybody's trying to help people. But to me, a lot of that got confusing. Like, I'm not like to comb through all the stuff. I'm like, I needed a legend to go through the material for it to be explained to me, even though they were trying to explain it, because it was confusing. Like even Tony Robbins stuff, some of it. And so that's what the book is, by the way. My book is a toolkit. It's just frameworks. That's why it's frameworks in there. And so, but going back, that's what were the best stuff I found. And so I took the frameworks that worked, and that's how I fixed my own mindset. And so then I'm like, okay, do I go back into real estate? Which I was just after money then, right? Like that's all I was chasing was money. I wasn't trying to add value. I didn't have any purpose. I didn't have a vision. And so that's part of also why I was burning business to the ground. I've realized, like, one, okay, I didn't want to break up my family and start fights with my wife because I had a subconscious belief that's what money did. But I also had no direction. I had no vision. I had no purpose. And so once I decided, okay, I learned all this and kind of cleared out my head and got the right mindset, I'm like, what do I do? Well, I'm like, why wouldn't I help who I was, right? Like entrepreneurs that are in the same issue that don't know what the issues are. Because they're like these invisible...
your PhD in self-improvement and just figured it out. And that's one of the things I've seen. So I was going to say the Earl Nightingale, the common denominator of success. I mean, if you just Google that, for those listening, the common denominator of success, Google it. It's a PDF. You can read it. It's in no time. It's phenomenal, right? And I think what I love about that, it talks about they build the habit of doing things successful people aren't willing to do. And it doesn't say they like to do it. right? It doesn't say they love doing this and that's why they're successful. They hate it just as much as you and I could hate it, right? But they built the habit to do it day in and day out.
Right. And they also have a vision, right? So if you have a vision of where you're going, for me, is to help 10 million people, right? Become better versions of themselves. Like that's my vision. And so because that's a vision, all the mundane stuff we hate doing is nothing. It's like, it doesn't matter anymore. It's part of the journey, right? Like enjoying the journey. If your destination is success, you're going to be very disappointed when you get there. But if you find success in the journey, then you'll be successful your whole life.
That's right. That's right.
And I didn't have that. I didn't know that, and I didn't have that. And so I had to learn that and figure it out.
Yeah. So that's to the point. Then back to my original question is if somebody grew up with it and somebody didn't grow up with it, the point is you can still go learn it, right? This isn't one of those things. Oh, Brett and this guy Jim, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I'm not wired that way. Well, you're not wired that way because you choose to not be wired that way. You choose to not go work on it. Fair?
100%. That's 100%. And then you have a small group of people, like actually my father falls into this category. It's a little annoying too, is that they'll rebel. So he grew up, he had a pretty rough life growing up, very scarcity, very poor. His dad wasn't a great person. His mom died when she was like 50. She drank herself to death. She had cirrhosis of the liver. And so he had a rough go. His brother drank himself to death also. And so if he ended up like his family, he would have been, dead from alcohol, but he decided to quit drinking and rebel against what he grew up with. And so while most people like me, I had a good upbringing, even though I heard my parents fight, my parents were good to me and I loved them. And so I didn't want to rebel. Like my dad wanted to rebel. And so he went from, like laying concrete and driving limos to, ended up being very, very successful. But he can't tell you how he did it. He doesn't know. All he ever told me, he said, the only advice I can give you that I live by, he goes, because we were homeless at one point, because we came from a pretty rough upbringing. He's like, every decision I made in business, all I said is, will my family be safe? And if the answer is yes, I did it. And so that's all I can tell you. Right. And so I'm like, well, that's not very helpful, Dad, but thanks.
Yeah. Glad we were safe, but appreciate it. Yeah, that's great. So the next one is, kind of all this stuff is the same thing we've been talking about, but thoughts, right? Thoughts and feelings. So talk about that for a little bit.
Right. So thoughts become things, right? Like, so this is probably it for you guys listening. If you write this down or pay attention to this, this would be the most powerful thing. And you don't even have to write it down. You just remember this. Labeling thoughts and facts as they come up, because our thoughts aren't our own, right? Because if you don't know anything about that, that's getting really deep, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But just know your thoughts aren't your own, right? And so there's thoughts out there in the ether, and we grab them, and that's why you have so many thoughts. You're like, I don't even agree with that. I don't like that thought. I don't believe that. But when you have the thought and you make yourself feel bad about it, you're like, oh, why would I think? And you like have guilt. That's a problem, right? So if thought comes in that you don't like, you label it as a thought. Like, that's a thought, and a thought I don't even believe. I don't even like that thought. Why would I think that? And so you might have that thought 20, 30 times a day, right? Yeah. Or maybe it's once a day. But here's the thing, just like the power of repetition, when you override that thought about 20, 25 times, if you do it, it's gone, right? Now you're going to have other thoughts that come in you don't like. So don't think you're out of the woods because you do it one time. But if you, like, when things come at you, like, oh, I do agree with that. That's a fact. Okay, that's good. I agree with that. That's a fact I believe. And if a thought comes in that's messed up and you don't like it, because we all have them, you're like, well, that's a thought. And that's a thought I don't even agree with. That's a really messed up thought. Like I'm going to put that in the thought category that I don't agree with and I don't believe. And then, after doing it about, like I said, 20, 25 times, that thought will be gone. It'll automatically override with what you do believe. So labeling thoughts as thoughts and facts as stuff comes in is extremely powerful, because we are all only as good as the thoughts and the stories we tell ourselves, right? Which are the thoughts that come in our heads. And so when you control the thoughts and you label them as thoughts and facts, it changes your life, because we all have lots of thoughts that run us in directions we don't like.
Yeah. And I think too, it makes me think about the thoughts and the facts. I mean, that's got to help people that are dealing with anxiousness, nervousness, right? I mean, I know my anxiety, stress level that I had growing up, and I've, worked through it all. That would have been helpful, right? Like this thought, okay, the heart palpitation, blah, blah, blah. This is just a thought. This isn't really a fact, right? And I think you can get through that a lot quicker.
100%. Like, and so that's part of the problem. And so, like, also with like stress, and you're focused on the future, right? And anxiety, usually thinking about the past, or or vice. so that's where that stuff comes from. And if you could figure out how to be present in the present and think about what's going on right now, all that stuff melts away. Like that's why people drink and do drugs, is to get out of their mind and not think about the past or the future and become present. Like if you're buzzed from alcohol or drugs or whatever, you're in the present moment, right? But you know what also does that for you? Meditation, right? If you can learn to meditate, and this is just like how I'm wired. I'm pretty rapid. I talk fast. And so I always told myself for years, like, I can't meditate. Like I can't shut the thing off, right? And learning in that 2-year journey of soul searching, I learned to meditate. It was one of the most powerful things that ever happened to me.
Yeah,
because
changed my life.
Twice a day. Like it's incredible. So when did you start meditating?
I started meditating in 2013 after a bad panic attack, and it was like I started to learn. I went to Mayo Clinic, did all these tests, spent thousands of dollars, and they're like, "This is anxiety." I'm like, "No, do you understand it?" And then so I just started researching it. To your point of a journey, right? And that journey actually is what led me to leave and start my own firm. And it's just like, and it's the greatest business decision I've ever made in my life. But if I wouldn't have gone through the shit, pardon my French, right? I would never have gotten there, right? And that's what was tough for me. And I was the same way, man, I can't do this. And then when I first started meditating, I would get really dizzy and lightheaded because I'm not used to breathing that deep. And then I'm like, well, this doesn't work. And then you just keep learning it. And now it's like, man, I do it every day.
I had to force it the same way at first. I had to force it because it was uncomfortable. I didn't like it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't turn off my brain. Yep. And now it's like there's so many different ways to do meditation. The clock meditation, I just picture hands going from 3 and 9 to noon. Like, so I just picture that over and over again in my head. And it's like, it gives you something to focus on, or focus on your breath, your stomach, just breathing in and out. If you can't turn it off, there's several ways. I mean, just Google it, Chat GPT. There's so many different ways to learn how to meditate, but that's what brought me into presence. And so, cause I quit drinking alcohol in 2011. I drank a lot. I drank for a lifetime prior to that. And, so it wasn't until probably 2019 that I discovered meditation, and that's what changed my life.
Yeah. It's funny, man, because after my workout yesterday, so I wear a Whoop. I think I maybe saw you may have an Aura ring or something, but and so you get your heart rate and all that stuff. So I was in the sauna after a workout, and then so your sauna it's constantly going up. Well, then the last 10 minutes I did a meditation, and I even screenshotted it. It was amazing. While my heart rate should be going up, it went down like a mountain because I was just in this mode, right, of just breathing and working through it, even though I was sweating.
I always meditate in the sauna. That's like 101. Like as soon as I get in, I wait till the sweat starts, and then I just go into a deep meditation because it's so powerful in there. Because because I don't even notice the sweat. I don't even notice the heat. I stay in there for 20 minutes, and it's every time the thing goes off, I'm like, I can't believe it's done already. And it's a great place to meditate.
Yeah. I read my 10 pages of my book. I start off reading 10 pages, then I kind of chill for a little bit, and then I end with meditation is on mine. So it's
and so something you mentioned that I want to touch on too, and this is a very powerful practice. You said making the decision to start your own business, which was hard, but all the crap that happened to you prior was what led you to do it, right? And so grateful practice, like you're grateful for all that crap, right? Because without crap, you would be where you are right now. And so people always expect these problems that they shouldn't have problems, or that shouldn't have happened to me, and they hold resentments, which getting back to resentments, right? But if you're actually grateful for everything you have, even right now, even no matter what situation you're in,
that's right.
You're grateful for that situation right now. Grateful you have a roof, you have a car, you have a job, whatever it is, your bank account, even if it's one you don't like. You're never going to be able to get to where you want to go if you're not grateful for what you currently have right now. And if you're people are like, well, I want to be worth $100 million. Well, that's great. But with your current attitude, you're never going to be there, right? You have to become the $100 billion person inside before the universe is ever going to give you $100 million in your bank account. Like you have to act like that person every day. Like just because your bank account doesn't reflect it doesn't mean you can't act. Like before you make decisions, before you do things like, oh, would a person worth $100 million, would they do that? No, They wouldn't cut that guy off. No, they wouldn't click that. No, they wouldn't do that stupid thing because they have composure. They're worth $100 billion. You're acting like the guy with like $100 in his bank account. Like, doesn't work that way.
Yep. Yeah, you got to become that person first. And I think too is you got to take risk and bet on yourself, man. When I started my company, like my wife was 8 months pregnant with our 4th child. We had just built a new home. Like the timing was not right. She's like, "Is this the right time?" I'm like, "No, it's a terrible time."
Timing's never going to be right.
It's never going to be right.
no matter what. If you waited, it would have been something else. Like you would. There's always an excuse to not do it, but there's always an excuse to do it too if you're willing to take the risk and bet on yourself. Right. And so action is part of this. Like there's so much stuff that, about, when people say with mindset, they're like, oh, it's woo woo and it's the secret. Well, the biggest problem with the secret is that they didn't talk about the action you need to take. Right. Like, yes, it's getting your mind right. And then taking action on that mindset. Right. You can't just like decide like, okay, I'm going to be worth $100 million. Like, please deliver it now. It doesn't work that way. You need to act and you need to take massive action, and usually ones that scare the shit out of you. Like those are the ones you have to take.
Yeah. That's why it's so it's your attitude, right? Your belief system, your actions to get you the results. That's why it's third in my lineup, because, you hear people all the time, oh, I just want this, but then they don't go do anything. It's like, I always say you can't have the best slap shot. Like you think your son plays hockey, right? You can't have the best slap shot in the world, but not know how to skate. Now, who gives a crap about your slap shot, right?
And Wayne Gretzky, like that, like I used to have it in my office, but my son came and took it because he's getting older and he's like, I want this in my room. But one of the quotes I have was from Wayne Gretzky: "You'll miss 100% of the shots you don't take." Right? Like that's one of the best quotes there is for sports and business, right? Like, of course you're going to miss shots you don't take. You have to take the shots to find out if you're going to make it. And so, so it starts with beliefs, and your beliefs create feelings, right? So going back to the behavioral loop cycle, your beliefs create feelings, and then your feelings, transfer into what the actions you take, right? Like, and like this is this loop that it'll end up reinforcing. It's the craziest thing, what you believe, right? Like so in the end, it ends up reinforcing what you believed in the first place, like the results you get from the actions you take, because it's the behavioral loop cycle. And it's the craziest thing. But once you understand it, and it breaks it down in the book very simply, and you're like, oh, because that's why the same thing keeps happening to you over and over again, because you're not changing your belief structure. It all starts with what you believe. And you decided to believe this thing. That's the amazing part, is you decided to believe it. So you can decide to believe something new. It's just most people don't even know that that's a thing. They don't even know how to do it if they find out. And literally, the book has every framework in it. Like, that book is available on Amazon, Mindset Breakthrough. You can literally, it's only 66 pages. I made it as a frameworks for my clients to easily go through. And so like that's all the book is. That's why it's so small. That's why it's so short. Originally it was a PDF download, but people were like, oh, they struggled to read it because it was longer. So I'm like, I'll just, self-publish it into a book.
Yeah. What, and I know the answer is going to be yes to this, but so not every day you wake up. I mean, you're full of energy, right? People listening to this, not even watching, can hear it and feel it. But there's work that you do every day, I would assume, every day on yourself, right? I always say you got to feed the positive dog. Talk us through what a normal day looks like for you to bring that energy and have the passion that you have to live the best life that you can possibly live.
100%. So the first thing I do when I wake up, sometimes I do it in bed, but usually I like to get up and I go sit on my couch. It's still dark. I usually get up around, 5:36, 6:30, depending on what time I go to bed. But my house is quiet. And I go sit and I envision who I want to become, right? Like I have my vision of helping 10 million people. So there's lots of stages I have to be on speaking. There's lots of people I have to meet. There's lots of things I have to do. There's a house my wife and I are going to live in Tennessee, and as soon as my kids go to college. And so there's things that I sit there and I visualize, who I'm going to have dinner with, like the kind of people that I will be having dinner with. And people like from Trump to Elon Musk to Tony Robbins to Joe Dispenza to David Baer to Bruce Lipton, if you know who he is. The guy's incredible with how your cells become why your thoughts become things as a cell from a cellular biologist level. Crazy. Dr. Bruce Lipton. Highly recommend you look into his stuff. But anyway, and then the next thing I do is for me, I read I have 4 Bible passages I read, because even if you're not into God, the Bible has some of the best wisdom of any book you will ever read. So it doesn't have to be a God thing if you're not into God. But I have a few passages that I read, and then I the same
4 every day.
Yeah. I will read other passages, but I have 4 that I've memorized that I keep. I read them every day, but but I will read new ones also, because my church sends out a daily Bible reading, and so I'll read different ones. I do read the same 4 every day, And then I go into a gratitude journal, which I highly recommend. This is, if you pull something out of this, for the people listening, is start a gratitude journal. Just, I mean, and it's because this is just going back to the basic stuff, like being grateful for what you have right now. And so here's what I start. I write, like, I'll write how I slept. I'll take a quick blurb about that, but then I write, for me, it's about God, right? So I write, Dear Father, thank you for, and first I start with today every day, because you're not guaranteed today. And then I start with a negative event that happened in my life, either recently or in the past or whatever. And I am grateful for that negative event because it brought me to where I am today. So most people are like, looking back, like, oh, why would you be grateful for a negative event? Well, because it shapes who you are. And if you're looking for good, you can find it in everything. And then I say my wife, my kids, my dog, my brother, my parent, and I have a list of things, and then I go into things that I want, right? Like I want, and so then I like almost like a kid. I start writing down things that I want, and they're my goals, right? Like they're where I'm headed, where I'm going. Yeah. And so, that every morning, that's the first thing I do, and that sets my mind right for the day. Now also I always do a quick workout. Like I work out probably 6 days a week, a full on workout. But in the morning, I do a 3-minute workout to wake up my body. So I do those things, and then I immediately go downstairs and I'll do, push-ups, sit-ups, air squats, like just 3 minutes, quick, just to wake up my body. And then I will jump into a cold shower. And so most people don't have a cold plunge. And so while I'd like to get one, that gives people an out, because a cold plunge is actually much easier than going into a shower. The cold shower, I don't start it cold. It's brutal, right? So I make it lukewarm, and I get in, and then I make it cold. Like if you can jump in there cold, more power to you. That is a big, I've tried that.
Next level.
Challenge. Yeah. So get in with lukewarm, and then turn it cold, and just sit there and eat it for 2 minutes, because here's what happens. You're making yourself super uncomfortable at the start of the day. That workout in the morning, that 3 minutes, that's tough. Like I don't take any pre-workout. I don't have anything prior. Just I drink a glass of electrolytes, salt in my water first thing. And then I go do that. It's not comfortable. And then the shower is brutal. It's not great, but it also sets the stage, because if you're going to grow and become someone you're not, you have to get used to being uncomfortable. And so I've taught my body to get used to being uncomfortable, so that when true discomfort happens in my life and in business, it's like, you brush it off, like no big deal. Like this is just part of it. Like, let me find the good and let's move through it, no matter what it is.
Yeah. Love it. I knew the answer. And then when are you doing your workout, like your full blown workout? Is that like right after all that stuff, or is that like in the middle of the day?
I work out. No, I take a break. Like, so my workout is usually about 2:00. Because I don't like working out when the gym's busy, and I go to a gym to work out, and so at 2:00 is pretty dead, and so I go there at I don't eat lunch until 11:30, or I don't eat any food until 11:30 every day, and so I'll eat, and it gives me time to get the food in my system, and then I'll go at 1:30 or 2, and then I do, like I said, I work out about 6 days a week, and I do full on workouts. I actually just about 7-8 months ago, I took 3 months of super light. Like I've been working out for 15 years, pretty much the same way. And so I decided to do a reset. And so I also stopped some high intensity cardio and started walking uphill. And I lost I was already in pretty good shape. Like I was probably 10% body fat. Yeah. And I went down to 4. I played ultimate frisbee, which is like, if you don't know, it's like rugby with a frisbee. Okay. Super fun. But I would do that because I'd sprint 30 times in 70 minutes. It was awesome. And then I would also do the stair machine for 60 minutes. Yep. And so I was doing some pretty high intensity cardio, but I was forcing myself to do it because I don't love that stuff. I'm not a runner. And so when I read that, your body might be storing fat if you do that, because it's as a protection mechanism, because your body, mentally you're forcing yourself to do it. So if you want to lose fat, walk uphill. These couple of doctors I follow that are natural. I don't take any prescription drugs. I'm very into natural medicine and functional medicine. And so these couple of naturopath doctors say, walk uphill. So finally I was after seeing that for years, okay. So I started walking uphill. I shredded. My wife was like, what is going on with you? What happened here? Because I'm in pretty good shape, and I was all of a sudden shredded, muscles that I didn't even realize I had were, I'm like, wow.
And you just did this just from walking uphill, and obviously eating right and exercise and all that stuff.
Right. I already did all that, but I was doing the high intensity cardio that was keeping fat on me, believe it or not. And so that walking uphill, there's now been new studies just that walking uphill is more effective than running for burning fat.
So what degree do you do on a treadmill?
10. So I start so my thing, I start at 5 for 2 minutes, 7.5 for 2 minutes, 10, 12, 15, and then come back down to 10. And then I go up to like 11.5. I go down to like 8.5. And I just kind of move it around a little bit I do it before I work out the first 20 minutes, I walk 1 mile. And then I go into, I'll do a lot of kettlebell. I do a lot of resistance training.
Yeah.
I'll do heavy weights twice a month. I don't do heavy weights a ton. And because like the reps, I'm not looking to get huge. Like, I was back when I started working out, I started to get like, I'm like, what am I? I'm only 5'7", right? So like when you look funny.
Yeah, you're like, what is going on?
Yeah, I pulled back from that. And so anyway, but I also like I said, 7-8 months ago, I started just resetting how I work out. And it was so powerful to change, because then when I went back and started building back up, it just felt so much better and cleaner. I can't even explain it. It was great to do.
I love it. Talk about, it was in your book, you talk about precision beats positivity. Talk about that.
Yeah, man. So your mind likes precision, right? Like if you give yourself a vague direction, like I want to lose weight, there's nothing there, right? Yeah. What your subconscious doesn't know, it's too ambiguous. There's nothing there. But if you want to lose 17 pounds, now we got something, right? Like the precision you tell yourselves is extremely important, right? Like I want to do, and like, well, as we're talking about, like I am statements, right? Like I want this, I want that. And so your thoughts aren't neutral, right? They're commands to your subconscious. So you got to be very careful with the stories you tell yourselves, because we're all only as good as the stories you tell yourself. So usually what people get in trouble with is I am not, right? I am not this. I am not a good reader. I am not good with money. Yep. I am not good. I am not. And that's programming your subconscious to not, and then your body creates chemicals that help you produce actions that make that true. It's wild. If you want to see an incredible, it's like mind-blowing lecture. I mentioned already, from Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Tony Robbins. If you go to his YouTube channel, you'll find the lecture from Bruce Lipton. It is, I mean, Brett, I'm telling you, it is like the first time I watched anything from him. Now this has been like 10 years since I've seen stuff with him, but I can't get enough. I've watched that lecture. I've watched 4 times, because it's like I can't get enough of like the detail that he talks about to the cellular level, like our bodies, like what they're made up of. Like he gets so, and he was a cellular biologist before he became a spiritual teacher, because he realized in his laboratory what cells were actually doing. And he got kicked out of universities because they were like, no, that's not right. And he ended up going to Stanford to do his research, because Stanford would allow him to do the kind of research he was discovering. And so, I mean, just like incredible. And, but that goes back to like the I am statements of like, you're saying I am this, I am that, I am not that. Yep. Super, super powerful. And people don't realize what they're doing when they say, I am not that person. I don't do that. Those are commands to your subconscious that are giving it directions on what you want it to do. Right. So if you want to be a better reader and you're not currently a good reader, you don't say I'm not a good reader. Say I'm working on getting better at this. Yeah. Like, right. Say this isn't a strength of mine right now, and I'm working to get better. Like then your subconscious knows, okay, we're in training mode. We got to learn to do better. We got to learn to figure this out. Like, like if you're not good with health and fitness, like, well, I'm learning that process right now because I'm a little overweight. I don't like to work out. I'm not good at it. I don't know health and fitness. Like I didn't either. I was 60 pounds more than I am now. I'm 5'7". I weighed 225 at my peak. I'm currently 150. Right. So I ended up losing 75, but my initial was 60. And the only reason I lost another 15 was that walking uphill just now. Like that is, I was at about 175, and, I was like, pretty good shape. But I lost 25 pounds from walking uphill and stopping the high intensity cardio. And so when you tell yourself you don't know, whatever, then you're not even looking for opportunities to make it so, right? Like, I don't have time to work out. Well, if you keep telling yourself you don't have time to work out, you're not going to see the opportunity to take the stairs as a place to burn some fat, or park in the back of the parking lot and walk further in. You're not going to do that because you told yourself you don't have time for it, right? But if you say, I'm looking for opportunities, to move my body and burn fat, you're going to be like, oh, the stairs. Oh, let's park in the back of the parking lot. It's a game changer when you tell yourself the right stories. We're all only as good as the stories we tell ourselves, right? So make sure there's stories that count, and make sure there's stories that serve you.
I love it. I just looked up Bruce Lipton here, so I'm going to watch that video, and I look forward to that.
It's mind blowing, Brett. It's mind blowing. Like I mean, I have recommended it to so many people, and they're always like, "Dude, like
This is amazing."
It's incredible. Like it's incredible. He's a cellular biologist by trade that turned into a spiritual teacher, and so he's very eccentric. But it is. I mean, I like, especially about halfway through, it gets so good. It's absolutely. But you got to watch the first half to build up to understand. But like when I go back now, I just watch the second half because it's mind blowing the way he.
Which one is it? Like the exact one? Because there's a lot of them on here.
The Bruce Lipton one. I actually let's see. Tony
Reprogram
Robbins.
your some.
Yeah, it's the science. It's called this is proof
Science of Manifestation.
Yeah, this is proof your beliefs create your reality.
Yep, got it right here.
Yeah,
okay,
that's the one.
Put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you have to, because if you're gonna start wrapping your head around how we work as our human bodies operating suits, like how they actually function, you need to get to the cellular level. And like the craziest thing about my journey, like the 2 years I took off, I ended up in quantum physics. I started studying like human behavior, like how we work, and it all leads back to quantum physics. And I'm like, I didn't even go to college, right? So like, people are like, well, I can't, like I mentioned quantum physics to people now, and they're like, oh, I can't. Like, do you even know what it is?
Speak that, yeah.
Yeah, you don't even know what it is. And like, oh, I know, because I couldn't understand it. I'm like, well, not with that attitude, of course not. But I was deep in quantum physics, and you can't understand it because I did. And it's about time and space and energy, and it's fascinating. But some of the most fascinating stuff was from Thomas Young in 1801. He did what was the double slit experiment, right? It became like the observer experiment, but that was Einstein in the early 1900s. But in 1801, he did the double slit experiment through like a sheet of metal, and that's when they realized that photons of light that get shot through, like they go, when they're not being observed, they turn into waves. And then the minute they're being observed, they stay like bullets. They stay straight, like exactly what you think. And so that showed us, and this is Bruce Lipton gets into this on a detail that's so crazy, mind blowing. But what that proves is that when your focus, our conscious awareness is focused on something, it changes the reality. Right? Like it's crazy. It gets super deep, like a conversation for another time, but you'll appreciate watching that Bruce Lipton lecture because it's fascinating.
Can't wait. Where do our listeners find more of you? Where's the best places to connect with you, and how do they work? They
can find like my website, jimhuntzicker.com. It's or my book is on Amazon, Mindset Breakthrough. But and I'm on social media, but not very much, because I actually recommend people get off of it. That part of the problem with anxiety, stress, fear, like people, imposter syndrome, is because you're watching other people's fake lives, right? And you're believing them to be true. Like it's very, very rare that somebody's life on Instagram is as good as it seems, no matter who it is. And even if it is, you're comparing yourself to them, and you haven't been down the same road they've been down. So until you can stop comparing yourself to people, you're going to have all this stress, fear, and anxiety of you're missing out, or FOMO on stuff that was never for you. Just be grateful and appreciate what you have, and you'll be able to have more. But until you can be grateful for everything you have, even the shit, even the problems, even the worst things that ever happened to you, until you can be grateful for that, you're going to be stuck in this circle of nonsense. Yeah. Like I was, mine was. Wait, here's the great part though, right? The beautiful part. Like this is a great thing for people to take away too. What I realized after burning those or walking away from profitable businesses is that money's easy to make. And if right now, if you just said money's not easy to make, guess what? You have a limiting belief that tells you otherwise, because money is easy to make. And if money's hard, money's a struggle for you, it's because you have a belief installed from when you were a kid, from somebody you loved and trusted that thought money was hard to make. So they installed that belief in you, and you still believe it today. Money's not hard to make. It's a belief you have, and you can change it. Yeah.
Well, my man, Jim, go ahead.
Decision Director, real quick. Like this is a super powerful tool that you guys can take away too. A piece of paper, just to change surface level limiting beliefs. Piece of paper, 2 lines, 3 columns. Column on the left is the old limiting belief, the one that's stopping you, right? The column in the middle is a new empowering decision you have. And the column on the right is evidence of that new decision, right? So you write your old limiting belief, and how you know it's a limiting belief, when you go when you go primal, when you're stressed, anxiety, fear, anything comes up that makes you feel bad or uncomfortable, there's a limiting belief buried there. Start paying attention to your thoughts. Those are your limiting beliefs that are stopping you from just the stories you're telling yourself. And so once you write down your limiting belief, your new empowering decision could be the opposite. Like, let's say you're bad with money. So it's old limiting belief, I'm bad with money. New empowering decision, just the opposite, I'm good with money. And then find evidence of that. If you're looking for evidence, it's everywhere, right? You'll find out, even if it's just picking up money in the street. I find money laying around all the time. Who doesn't find money laying around from time to time? It could be that simple. Like, don't overthink this. And then here's the most powerful part. Once you have your new empowering decision and your evidence of it, you take the voice notes out on your phone and you record those two. Not the first one, not the old limiting belief, just the new one. I'm good with money. I found money laying around all the time. I make money all the time. I make money every week. My bank account is full. Like, it doesn't have to be as full as you want, but just evidence that you're good with money. Like, you keep telling yourself you're not, you're never going to be. But then you record that, and in your own voice, you listen to it 3 times a day, first thing in the morning, right before you go to bed, at some point in the middle of the day, and now you're reprogramming your subconscious with your own mind. It's so powerful. And when you listen to Lipton, that exact lecture I'm telling you, you'll understand why that is so powerful. Like, so I was doing that already, and I heard Bruce say it. I was like, holy crap. Like, this is incredible. It just made it gave it validity. It was incredible.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I love that. I love that's a real exercise that people can just take this, write down the lines and make it happen, man. That's awesome. Well, we could go on for hours and hours, man. We have a lot of similar beliefs, and I love that. I love the conversation, and thank you so much for being on the Circuit of Success, man. That was awesome.
Thanks for having me.